Hey, and welcome, guys. Today, what we have is the Naboo fighter, of course, from Star Wars Episode 1. This is made by EMT Ertl. It's a snap fast kit. It's supposedly 1/48 scale, which I'm not sure. So let's just take a quick look at the parts here. Now, this is a snap tight kit, so it comes molded in color. As you can see, I've already kind of taken it apart a little to look at the pieces. I kicked around the idea of trying to light this, but for such a small, simple model, I just don't think it's going to be worth it. One of the things is that you have these section of the wings right here that connect, and there's no gap between them, so you'd have to try to channel out or something to make room for engine lighting. And to me, it's just not worth trying to do that for this little, this small kit. So what I'm going to do is paint it up. And just try to put a nice paint job, get a nice finish. I'm going to remove all this chrome, and I'm just going to try using some common household bleach to remove all the chrome. I believe this is colored in yellow. And the problem with these chrome parts is, it's not too bad looking, but they put it on these trees and they make these connecting points on parts so that when you trim it off, you can see where it's been connected. Right here, where you can see where the yellow is shining through, and it just kind of ruins the whole part. It wasn't quite as bad on this one. It was connected like right here where I took that off, and this part kind of butts up against it, so that part didn't show too bad. But overall, I think we'll just have a lot nicer finish if we just strip this paint off and come up with some kind of metallic color to paint all this. We'll repaint the body, but very simple paint scheme, but of course we'll add a little bit of weathering. You can see on the box on here, there's a lot of weathering and stuff. It's just for 1/48 scale seems very small. So it must have been a very small fighter. I suppose it was, because your whole cockpit takes up a good part of the main body. You do get a little figure. Now this figure appears to be Anakin. The regular Naboo fighter pilots, they seem to have on like these trench coats and stuff, and here he seems to have on his little slave outfit that he was wearing on Tatooine. So it looks like we have a little Anakin here, which we'll have to paint him up. But other than that, pretty simple, not a whole lot of parts. Got a little display stand, and so first things first is let's get going with taking the chrome off these parts. Well, that worked really fast. I was planning on just kind of taking pictures of it as it was taking it off, and I was watching it as I was setting my phone up, and I realized that the chrome was starting to come off, so I cut the camera on. Man, that took it off really quick. I think it took maybe 4 minutes or so to get it off. Now I've washed it and rinsed it thoroughly with some warm water. There's a little bit left on here, but I'm not too worried about that. So now it's obviously the same type plastic as the rest of the body, so we'll just work from there. Alright, so here I've attached, there's just two parts of the main body right here, and they press fit together. Now I did glue. Now, as you remember, I removed the chrome off this one part. You can tell it's really shiny, super smooth. I'm actually going to run some, and have in some very fine sandpaper, because I do plan on priming this, and I want to make sure the primer sticks on it good. So I have those parts together. I have the wing engine set together. You can see where I've added a little Bondo glazing putty that I like to go to. Fill in little gaps and kind of transitions. Still got a little bit of work to do. I'm going to be priming over all this. That'll help show me if I need to fill in any more of these seams. So you can just tell where I've done that on these two parts. And that will simply fit right in here. I'm going to attach everything and prime it, and then paint it as a whole piece. I have the canopy to the cockpit. I masked it off and painted the silver around here just using some Vallejo steel. So that's ready to go. I'm working on painting Anakin. He's just got a base coat of tan on him right now, so I'll be doing a lot of hand painting on that. Pretty simple model, not a whole lot of parts. The engine's kind of, you have 4 or 5 parts per engine, but really not too difficult. I think lightening it just wouldn't have looked very good if I would have did the engines. There's just not a space there. I was hoping there would be a bigger gap on the inside. Maybe I could put a clear piece of plastic there, but it's just too much work for this small snap type model. So just going to paint it up and have it look good, or hopefully look good anyway. All right, as you can see here, I've got it mostly assembled. I filled in this panel line right here where these 2 parts came together. I have a little bit of a gap. I actually broke a tip. I just kind of glued that back on and tried to sand it back into shape as best I could. So I'm getting ready, excuse me, to put a coat of primer on that, and I'm sure that will expose some of the areas I still need to clean up. So let's put a coat of primer on it. Alright, as you can see, I have it masked off here. I've did on my base coat of the yellow, and now I also put on a couple of coats of clear, and I had to wait a few days to let those dry. I also added in the decals in between those 2 coats. I've messed it off, and we're now working on the silver part, the chrome part up front and underneath. The first step of that is putting on a gloss black coat, so I'm just going to airbrush some of this Model Master Gloss Black. And the reason we do that is I'm going to be using this Spastic Ultimate Mirror Chrome, and to use this you need a glossy black undercoat for it to work the best. Hopefully I have enough left. There's not a whole lot in there, but it's not a whole lot of ship here, so I'm going to be putting on that black coat and then spraying that with that mirror chrome. Alright, well here is our finished Naboo N1 Starfighter. I'm sorry I kind of skipped ahead from the last part, but this model very nearly got thrown away. Had a bit of a catastrophe when I went to spray on the gloss black. As you recall, I was using Model Master's gloss enamel, and I thinned it down with a little enamel thinner to be able to spray it out on my airbrush. And when I sprayed it on this section, it just reacted with the clear enamel that I had put on. I did a gloss coat prior to that of this spray gloss enamel to give it all this kind of shiny effect, which I'm very pleased with that part of it, but I didn't mask, so all this had that clear. Well, when I sprayed that black with that enamel thinner, it reacted to it, and all of this section is cracked up and got, if you ever seen how paint reacts to different things, it cracked up, webbed up, and it just, almost the whole thing was, to me, it was almost ruined. It almost went airborne, so it almost got its one and only flight. But I just kind of walked away from it, and I let it dry. And then the next day I come back and decided I'd see if I could salvage it. And so what I did is I just did a lot of sanding with some different grits, and for the 600 grit sandpaper, this is some 600, and I did some wet sanding. I left all this masked off, and I knew that I was trying to be careful just to sand this silver part now, but I managed to sand most of it off, and then I went back and reapplied. This time I used the this acrylic pure black and resprayed over all of it. Then I went and sprayed another coat of this clear gloss over that. The reason being is that this Spastic Mirror Chrome requires a glossy black finish for it to be shiny. So I did all that, sprayed it, put the clear gloss on it, gave it time to dry, and then I sprayed this Spastic Mirror Chrome on it, and I'm pretty happy with it. I think for a spray can, it looks came out pretty good. It really depends on how glossy that black is, how much mirror effect you get from the spray. So again, I had to do a lot of sanding and get rid of a lot of paint. If you look really closely, I think right in there, I don't know if it really shows up. You can still see a little bit of it where it was difficult to kind of get that sanded down, and I didn't want to eat all the way through. I was really close to the tape, so I didn't want to destroy the yellow paint job that I'd already done. So, and then just a quick look at the bottom. So pretty happy with how it came out. Considering that it almost got thrown away, I'm fairly pleased with the end result here. I think the Spastics it's about as good as you can for our spray can type gloss on it. Has a nice shine to it. The nose tips have a pretty good mirror effect on them. Really happy with how the yellow came out. And again, I just used this this craft satin acrylic paint from Apple Barrel. The color is Sunbeam. And I find the best thing is just water to thin this down. I've tried acrylic thinners and alcohol and window cleaner. I've tried all kinds of things, but water tends to mix it down, and you just have to play with it, get it down to like a milky consistency. But water does the best. It tends to thin out the best. For some reason with the other stuff, it tends to clump up a little bit. But it sprayed on. I think it did a very good job of spraying on. I didn't have any issues. Once I got it thinned down properly, it sprayed on very nice. And I think once I put that gloss clear coat on it, it gave us a really nice paint job in there. And of course we have our Anakin in there. And I painted him up. We have our R2-D2, which I had to repaint. He was also chromed up, so I had to strip the chrome off him and then paint him up. Once I did get the mirrored part, I did have to mask off these engine inlets, the little bit of yellow there, and mix up more yellow paint, repaint those. Now you don't want to put a clear gloss over on top of this Spastics chrome. It'll just dull it down, so you just have to leave it the way it is. So I was a little concerned when I masked this off how it would react, and it did pull a little bit of silver, but not like all the way off, not like flakes of it. It just had like specks of the chrome in it. But it really didn't affect how the model looked. So really happy with it. As you recall, we had that big seam that came all the way across, and we got rid of that. We had some seams on the engine lines, and I think we, for the most part, got those pretty good. We had a seam that came all the way across here, and we actually had broke this part right here, so I had to glue that together and sand it down to get that back the way it looked. There's a few decals around the cockpit area. Well, there we go, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Until next time, everybody have a good one.